appropriate, I took it.
So I didn't get a chance to start the recording yet. I'm going to do that right now. The recording is going. So I'd actually love for you to repeat that again before you start, because today's presenter is Susan Jimenez. So everybody should pin her to your screen. She's the one wearing the big sombrero. Take it away, Susan.
Very good. I actually have a PowerPoint I'm going to share, so I'll say that in a moment. But happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. This is Susan Jimenez speaking to you this afternoon. Actually, it's just afternoon for me because I'm in San Diego. So it's just hit afternoon right now. Here in San Diego, because I am the closest person to Mexico, when Adam offered me this day as one of my choices, I thought how appropriate that the person closest to Mexico could do Cinco de Mayo. I'm a business analyst, senior business analyst with the HRMS team. I'm pretty new to Net at Work. I joined the team February 29th with a couple other people in an acquisition from Blytheco. And it's been fast and furious since we got here. We were here about 8 working days before COVID came along. And I'm sure you can understand, being in the HCM world, HR and payroll, that we have been swamped. It's been a little chaos. But again, I am the closest person to Mexico, so I thought I'd give you some idea of what that looked like for me. The map on the left shows where I live, and you can see I'm 32 minutes from downtown Tijuana. And we do frequent Tijuana and Rosarito, just south of there, about 20 minutes, to go to the beaches, beautiful beaches down there, and love our time across the border. Alternatively, San Diego is the birthplace of California in the United States, and Old Town is where it all started. And you can see I'm 3 miles from there. It says 7 minutes. It never takes me 7 minutes to go get my good Mexican food over there. And that's just a picture of Old Town. But my husband and I love to go to Mexico, wherever that might be. So this last fall, we took a cruise and we were in Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta. We didn't get into Cabo that day because the tenders couldn't, it was a little choppy in the water and they didn't want us off the tenders. This picture is actually the Rio zone in Tijuana. That's the arch in Tijuana. This is Puerto Vallarta. As I said, we love to go to Rosarito, and that's the Rosarito Beach Hotel. And most of the sands in Mexico are pretty white. But where did I start? So I was talking to Daniel. He's going to relate with some of this in my presentation. This is where it all started. I was born on a farm in northern Iowa. In fact, this is where I was born, right on this county line break. That road right there is that X. I'm the youngest of 7 children. In fact, I should state I'm the very youngest of 7 children. The next one to me is 10 years older than me, and my oldest brother is 22 years older than me. And yes, I'm going to age myself. My eldest brother just turned 80 in February. If you look at this picture really closely, my father was retired by the time he had this picture taken. The planes would come by and do this periodically, but this was right before they were selling our farm, at least the building site. Mom kept the land for rental property for her retirement. But Dad finally decided it was time to buy this and give it to everybody. So it's a picture in my home. But right here, you might see a little thing there. That is my dad fixing the lawnmower with our dog standing right beside it. But I was born in this farm, and this was where I spent my time. This country church to the left was a country church of about 300 families. And Rock Creek Lutheran Church is in the country, middle of nowhere. The town I grew up in is Norris Springs, or just north of Norris Springs. It is the only Norris Springs in the world. And we were the Norris Springs Rock Falls Eagles. The school on the upper, that was the Rock Falls Small School, where I went from 1st to 4th grade. And then this is the high school and other grades. They split us up 1st through 4th. Some of us were here, some of us were down here. My mom was a teacher, my dad a farmer. Here's me in kindergarten. Changed a lot, right? Not really. And in school, I was active in, I played the clarinet. I was very active in choir and speech. I played on the golf team. I'll be honest, I wasn't a very good golfer, but I was our #1 good golfer, best golfer on our team. Just didn't say much for the rest of the team. In fact, my junior year, I went to the regionals. Don't ask me how I made it, but I golfed with another person by my same name. By the way, When I lived in the Midwest, when I was growing up, my name was Susan Larson. That's how Tom Dieterle knows me from years and years past. I joke that when I moved out west, it was very convenient for me to meet my new husband because Larson is not a common name as it is in the Midwest out here. So I met him in Las Vegas, and his name is Jimenez, and it's much more appropriate for the West Coast. I was active in speech and 4-H. And some funny things happen to us as the years go by, and Facebook's been fun for that. But see this girl right next to me on this page? I didn't even realize it until the other day. I was looking at it again. We reconnected on Facebook, and last November, that cruise I mentioned, she and her husband accompanied us on that cruise, interestingly enough. Here's me, my senior year. This one's a little cloudy, but I like the smile. And then this is the night of graduation. I couldn't go and dig out all my books. They're a little too high for me, and I didn't want to bother my husband to go find family albums and so forth. So he only got a couple that I could find out. The other people posted on Facebook for me. My graduating class had 60 kids in it, actually 62 if you count the 2 foreign exchange students. But this bunch here, this 20 or so of us, we all started kindergarten together. So this was taken just before graduation, and that was our initial crew, kind of fun. From there, I went to Iowa State University, Ames, Iowa, and I'm a Cyclone, still follow the Cyclones, and we have a Cyclone club here in San Diego. This was the dorm I lived in my first 2 years. Yes, that's one dorm. Originally, it was 2 dorms. This inner part was a second dorm, but then they joined them later on, and it's a city of about 6,000 people. I became a little sister to a fraternity. I took about a 1.5 year break from college, and then when I went back, my sister's mother-in-law had become a house mom at AKL. And so she convinced me to become a little sis to AKL. None of them knew that I was somewhat related to Wanda. The reason I share that is the picture is my senior year, she broke her hip. And when she came back, I was just about to graduate, but for 2 months, I lived in the dormitory with her in the house mom apartment. So I was the only little sis to ever live at AKL. From there, I moved to Minneapolis, and I worked a few different jobs in accounting. Probably the biggest and longest longevity was I worked for CBN, which was bought out by QVC in 1990. But that's the beginning of home shopping. And that's what led me to a lot of the computer work that I do. Somebody the other day was saying, how did they get involved in computers? Well, I'll tell you, number one, when I went back to college, that was when PCs all of a sudden were part of the accounting curriculum. Quite honestly, I started my college as a comp sci major, but they started us in Pascal to weed us out. There was too many of us. So I walked into my first accounting class and knew virtually everybody because they'd come from the comp sci program. But when I came back, I had a fear of computers, if you want to believe that. And I got a job at the physical plant for the university. And another gal was another college student that was working there, and she was in computer science. So they tasked us with writing an inventory control system for the tool crib of the physical plant. So I kind of got back in very fast and furious there. My first job out of college was a controller for a paper die cutting company that supplies all the big printing companies around the country. And so I automated their financials from paper to computers. I got to CVN, and I was actually the MIS liaison for the credit marketing department as we built things like learning what chargebacks were, and all the credit cards were really kind of new for everybody shopping, especially remotely. So lots of new programs. So I would come up with how the system should work. I'd envision them and work with the MIS team to actually program them on the Wang. Yeah, I remember Wangs. Those years that I was up there, I became a JC, which is the Junior Chamber of Commerce. And I was honored by being a statesman, which is a pretty nice honor. I lived in Hopkins, Minnesota most of those years. They were the raspberry capital of America and ran 3 huge festivals, one of them being Raspberry Festival. When I aged out of the JCs, yes, it's the Junior Chamber of Commerce, I joined the Elks there and enjoyed my time there, because when we age out of the JCs, we left, we had to join an animal group. But then in 2002, I had a motorcycle accident. This was the bike I had. It was a Yamaha V-Star Classic. It was a big bike, 1300, but it was low. Tom, if I stood next to Tom, you'd all laugh because we were Mutt and Jeff when we were at Delphia together. I'm very short. I'm about 5'2.5".
Wait, Tom is tall?
Yeah, right? Yeah, did he ever tell you how tall he is?
Yes, I'm 6'4", but it's really short.
So I now wear a prosthetic, but I get along pretty good. I've worn that now for, oh my gosh, almost 18 years. And it is 18 years because it was the 14th was my anniversary. So that kind of changed my life. I was married at the time, and let me just say, when I learned to walk, I walked away. So I moved back home with my mother for a year, which was great. She was 85 at the time, and I got to spend a wonderful year with her. She passed in 87. I then decided it was time to get back to city life. So I ended up moving to Chicagoland, to St. Charles, Illinois. And I was working for another bar there. And then I started traveling again. My boss had said, when I had the accident, we're kind of a small world here, especially the stage resellers. He said, I think I got a way to put you back to work right away, and you can travel when you want to. If you never want to travel again, that's fine too. We got a place for you here. But when I moved to St. Charles, I decided it was time. So I started traveling again, and I was traveling sometimes up to 80% of the time. I helped him to build a certified training center. We ran ABRA classes back in the day, 1 week a month. The company I worked for was in Columbus, Ohio. I guess they still are in Columbus, Ohio. But he gave me a choice because they were partnering with another stage bar in Vegas. And he said, would you rather do the trainings in Vegas or in Ohio? And obviously it was Vegas, and I ended up moving to Las Vegas because I fell in love with the sunshine. As I was moving there, I met my husband, my new husband, not new anymore, I guess, but my now husband. And eventually we moved to San Diego in 2010. So we've been here nearly 10 years now. He's from Santa Barbara originally, so he was very anxious to get back to seeing sand, but instead of seeing the sand that didn't have any water lapping on it, he prefers to hear the ocean. So this is a different view of where I live. Before I showed you in conjunction with Mexico, but now I thought it would be fun to show how close I am to the ocean. So I'm depending on how I go, if I was to go straight over, I'm about 5 miles from Ocean Beach and about 5 miles from downtown. So really great location. And people will ask us all the time, well, why'd you move to San Diego? And I just have one answer. It's San Diego. And it is America's finest city. It's just beautiful here. Here's our skyline, the gas lamp downtown. They've made that beautiful the last decade or so. We love the beaches here. In fact, it was funny when Adam came up with this plan. Originally, Rashawn and I were going to do a beach coast to coast event for you today, but they closed our beaches. They have just opened them up again, but we can't park down there. So that's a little bit of a problem for me. This is Balboa Park, just another sunset, and then Torrey Pines. It's a gorgeous city. If you've never been here, you need to get here. This is us. This is me and my husband, a few shots around the years. We were married on 7/7/7 at 7. I think that's so he could remember it. My friends were going to get married on 11/11/06, and he kept saying, the only thing better than that is 7/7/7. And I finally said, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, what do you think? And I said, about what? He said, well, getting married on 7/7/7. And I said, well, you think you need to ask me first. So then he finally proposed, and that was the date. And we got married on the beaches of Kauai, on Poipu. So just some shots of us together. This is on the Queen Mary up in Long Beach. It's a friend's wedding. Hosted a Christmas party here at our Elks, which I'm going to talk about shortly. And then, of course, one of many pictures at the beach. We got a couple side hustles. My husband and I represent a real estate investing education system, but it's really a community of people that are looking to a little bit of personal development. Okay, a lot of personal development, a little bit of future retirement. So we've dabbled in real estate. We've done a number of short sales. We've done some fix and flips and so forth. So, but really this is a community and we travel together. There's a couple shots here of us getting honored. This is putting us in a 10,000 a month club. This was kind of a kickoff to the organization where we won a major sales prize and then a 100K club dinner. But these are various trips we've been on. This is at one of our conventions. I think this is last year's convention, which was canceled this year. This was in Cancun in a nightclub, and this was in Punta Cana in the pool. And through that, we found some causes that we really love. One is called the Statue of Responsibility, and that's what this statue is. Many of you probably read Viktor Frankl's work, Man's Search for Meaning, for instance. In that, he states that he challenged someone to build a Statue of Responsibility to bookend the Statue of Liberty. And he dreamed that it would be on the West Coast. He said, without responsibility, our liberties are for naught, and it's important that we remember that. So this is a rendering of what that will look like. I have an inkling that it's not going to be put very far from me. In fact, it might have even been on that map I showed you a little bit ago, but definitely a tourist attraction that's coming to the West Coast in just a few more years. We've been working with them now for about, oh my goodness, 8 years, I guess. On the left is a picture of me with Gary Lee Price, who is the sculptor. And you'd find his work all around the country. So if you want to look him up, he's a pretty incredible guy, and that's his wife, Lisa. So they've become good friends of ours over the years. Had a recent journey. I've been working on getting better nutrition and changing up my lifestyle. Obviously, these last few weeks haven't played out for that very well, so my cheeks might look a little chubbier than they did here in this in progress picture. But I've been working with a coach that I found through Renatus, and his name is Ron Williams. This is me and Ron as I started my journey with him. Ron Williams is actually the most decorated bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder in the program. In fact, they made him bodybuilder of the decade. Now he's actually a minister and a coach and just an incredible man. So you see me before, and then last summer I looked much better, and feel much better. Another side hustle was going to a wedding, and I'll talk about the wedding in a minute here. But I was going to buy some felt eyelashes for myself or get extensions or something. But a friend started selling these eyelashes from Toribel. So I like them so much. My friends like them so much. I figured, well, I might as well sell them to myself. So yeah, and that's what I have on today, by the way. My family. So I mentioned that I was the youngest of 7. My parents lived to the age of 83 and 87. I lost my dad in 92. I lost my mom in 2005. Again, I was very much the baby. Here I am, and you can see my siblings are a little older than me. Right to my right here is my brother, my oldest brother, who just turned 80. And we're all over the country, but we tend to get together. This was at my sister's place, I should say my sister's winter place in Phoenix, Surprise. And my brother lives in Tucson. The brother to his right lives in my hometown, Norris Springs, Iowa, and behind him is his wife, Janine. Behind my oldest brother is my next sister, Carol, and her husband's way over here on the right, Roy. My other sister, Ellen, and her husband, Stu, they live in Dallas. Oh, and this lady here is my sister-in-law, Cheryl, that's married to the eldest brother. So that's my family. I have 8 nieces and nephews and 12 great nieces and nephews on my side. My husband's side of the family, as I mentioned, he's from Santa Barbara. This is a picture from his parents' 60th wedding anniversary. It's about 10 years ago now. So that's his parents, Tony and Doris, and his son, Carlos, who was already in college by the time I met Michael. He is also very involved in the Elks. So it was interesting when I ran across this family that I could fit right in. These pictures, this was taken last year. He was honored. They decided that they wanted to dedicate their lodge room to him. They call him the Godfather there. He knows everything and does everything at their Elks Lodge and even in their district up there in Santa Barbara. So they dedicated the lodge room to him, and they had an overflowing crowd for that. And this was a family shot that evening. And this is the nice little dedication they did for the godfather of the lodge room. So Michael has a son, Carlos, and he's, what is he, 34. And he also has a stepdaughter, Nikki, and Nikki is 38. He was married to Nikki's mom in Vegas shortly after they came here from Vietnam. They both obviously speak fluent Vietnamese. She was 9 at the time when they moved here. They actually live here, her and her son. She was a cocktail waitress in Vegas and met her new husband, who was a professional poker player, Danny Foose. You'll find him on World Series of Poker. He has a few bracelets. And they got married in February, just before all this craziness. In fact, she jokes that they waited to really announce that the COVID was thoroughly here in the United States until the wedding was over. So they have a little son, Lucas. And so we're Grandma and Grandpa Mike and Sue, and spend time with him when we can. Obviously, they travel quite a bit when they can travel because he's in poker tournaments around the world. But again, the wedding was in February. So here's a couple shots of us. This was at her bridal shower in Vegas that weekend. And this was the bachelorette party. She insisted I went to the bachelorette party. So we had dinner first. And that's a picture of us that night. And then we have the wedding, and that's so recent that I thought it'd be fun to share that. So this is her side of the family with us and the grandparents and her mom and her mom's husband and Lucas and Carlos. Here's Nikki dancing with Grandpa Tony. And then this was from a video, so it didn't turn out very well, but he did have his daddy-daughter dance at the wedding as well. Like I said, she insisted I go to the bachelorette party. So here I am at the Sexy Ninja bachelorette party. We were quite a scene as we went into the MGM and all the way through with our ninja costumes. I don't think I'd ever been stopped that much in my life. Keep in mind, she was a cocktail waitress. So here I am, stepmom, coming into this with all these gorgeous, gorgeous girls, and we're getting stopped all the way along. I don't think I'd ever had such quite a scene before. One of my hobbies is travel, and it started at a very early age. These pictures are from places that I went on my very first real trip. My brother is a professor, and he took a gig in Bogota and Medellin, Colombia for 3 years. So when I was 9 and turned 10, I was in those countries. We started by meeting him in Miami, and then we flew together to the Panama Canal for a layover one night, and then flew on to Bogota. While we were there, we saw some interesting things. This is a picture from the Aztec Gold Museum. That was fascinating. We went to the salt mines. And this is the Medellin Simon Bolivar Center. We also spent a few days on the Amazon at a little town called Leticia. And they had on the river and some of the offshoots of the river these lily pads that they could actually put me on. I could stand on those. They're huge. So that kind of gave me the travel bug. And in the United States, I've been almost everywhere. So Mark Dresser, I think I see a trip coming up to see you sometime, so I can hit 3 of these off my list. So I've only got a few highlighted. I still don't understand how I didn't get to Kentucky, but been all around it. And my husband and I love to travel too. I mentioned some of the trips that we've been together. This is Norway. I went there with my sisters shortly after my mother passed. This is one of the fjords with the 7 Sisters waterfalls. We've been to Belize. We've been to Honduras. We've been to Negril. In fact, we formally got engaged in Negril. My husband decided on a Sunday morning that it was time to make it official. We were there for a friend's wedding, and he said, let's go shop for rings. But it was Sunday. Yet you're in the islands and everybody has everything at every shop you go to. And we actually found rings at just a general store, if you can believe it. But they had certificates of authenticity. But it was a type of jewelry store that you could barter. And my husband and I had been to enough places in Mexico. I knew how he bartered. So I knew when he was done. I started walking to the door, and the gentleman said, wait, man, lady, come back. I said, well, I think he's done bartering. And he said, well, what else would it take? I said, I don't know, what you got? He said, well, I got this 50-year bottle of rum. I said, well, what about me? You can have one too. So all this and 2 bottles of rum. This picture is one I'm really proud of. This is actually my husband's cousin's place on Kauai, on the north side of Kauai. Right here, that actually goes down to the ocean. It's 5 acres of property. They've been very lucky, but it was like having our own private estate when we got to stay there. When we travel, we like to be adventurous. When we were in Cancun, I actually went ziplining, never thought I'd do it. Kind of a funny story there too. Usually when we'd go on those excursions, I would sit in the bar and wait for Michael while he'd go do ziplining or what have you. And then we were planning to go ATVing right after that, which I'll do that. But the work staff there was a little quiet that day, and they convinced me, we're going to send you with 2 of my best guys and you can go ziplining. I never went because I thought I'd lose my leg in the jungle and then I'd be really up a creek, right? But they said, we're so well groomed that if it falls, they're going to catch it because they're going to be right below you. So they had somebody following below, and I had 2 guys with me. But my husband made it back before I did. When he got back, he said, well, where's my wife? And they said, well, she's ziplining. He's like, yeah, right. He went to the bathroom and he came back and he goes, really, where's my wife? She's ziplining. Well, we kind of had a joke that we were going to come back and I was going to have my leg off and be propped against the guys and say, we lost my leg in the jungle. And then they actually had a brighter thought. What if we just put the leg on the side there and say, we don't know what happened. This is all that's left. But anyway, a bus pulled in right before that, so we couldn't have any hijinks, but it was pretty funny. This was a New Year's Eve party on one of the boats down in the harbor. We love to cruise. And yes, we have our next cruise booked for next February on Valentine's Day. My husband likes to gamble a little bit, so they kind of like to give us complimentary staterooms. So hard to pass those up. We love to go to the beach. This is Pacific Beach, and how beautiful to just sit there. In fact, this was the night taken, the very night that Newsom said we're closing everything. So we were coming home and I was posting on Facebook and everybody said, how can you do that? They just closed everything. I belong to a couple of meetups. I run a meetup, a couples meetup here for other empty nesters that want to meet other couples and do things. I belong to a girls bunco group. When I got done with my term of president with the Elks, I joined A-List because my husband said, you need something to do. So I see a lot of movies, not right now, but I see a lot of movies. The Elks have been a major part of our life since we moved to San Diego. On the left was the night that I was inaugurated as the president, or we like to call them exalted ruler. And no, you don't have to bow, at our Elks Lodge in El Cajon, California. I have about 1,600 members in a 30,000 square foot building. I'm currently the House Committee chairperson for that, which means we run all the rentals, the kitchen rentals, the dining room. We've got a huge patio. I'll show you some pictures of the rooms, and our House Committee, which is our social quarters. So in the middle is a picture of past exalted rulers, the day that I became a past exalted ruler. And on the right is me speaking at state convention when I was an exalted ruler. So if you don't know about the Elks, we're all about charity. Our major projects are children and veteran programs. And in the state of California, we have something called the Purple Pig, which is our major project. Oh, hold on, here comes my husband. Let me introduce you to him. Come here, get in the camera. This is Michael. If you can get around my hat, can you see around my hat?
Never can see around your hat.
Thank him for letting me borrow his Patron. I told him he won't let me drink it.
No.
So the Purple Pig here in California, we help kids walk, talk, see, and play. We have occupational physical therapists around the state for people, particularly in rural areas where there's not a lot of physical therapy. We raise about $4 million a year for that foundation in California, Hawaii Elks. We also do all the pre-vision screening for all the private schools because they don't get the state funding to do that, and that's free of charge. On the left is a project that came to my lodge the year that I was exalted ruler. It's the East County Christmas for Kids. We distribute Toys for Tots to about 5,000 kids. So we partner with the Marines and bring through about 3,500 families. It's kind of an incredible day, and that's getting us geared up to just do the distribution. Works much like the DMV. We hold up our sign and now serving number 12. On the upper right, of course, we have an annual parade, the Mother Goose Parade. So that's me on a float the year I was ER. And my husband had a bright idea the year that I was exalted ruler. We decided we wanted to leave a legacy that would raise money for the Purple Pig or major project. So we began a haunted lodge. And down here is a picture of our first haunted lodge brochure or flyer. And we partnered with a haunter, a professional haunt builder. And this will be our 4th year if we can hold it. Hopefully we won't be closed down that long that we can actually have it. And, you know, you want to put people through a haunted house about 6 feet apart anyway, so we should be good. And then, of course, here I was being previewed on the news when we opened the haunted lodge. This is our lodge. This is our dining room dressed up for a wedding. This is our social quarters. We just did a remodel, got rid of the Ragnaga hide on the front of the bar and made it a little trendy. We've got an RV park. We've got a conference room and our Pride and Joy, the patio. Patio can hold between the patio itself, the covered patio, and the grassy area about 500 people. So we have some major parties out there. We have one that's called El Corritaville, and that's here, us at El Corritaville there. Jimmy Buffett style party. We do have some Elk Divas, so those were our shirts a few years ago. We do karaoke every Friday. This is a girls group doing karaoke. We have a cook crew. This is our crew shack or cook shack out on the patio. And you can tell I'm pretty reserved. I know some of you already were really shocked that I'm shy. Yeah. We do a lot of costumes. It seems whether it's Elks or Renata stuff, we end up with costume parties. And these are a few of my favorites from the years. I really like the double stuffed Oreo. That was kind of fun. We went to a party with our Renata's crew and the theme was a 20s party. While everybody else was flappers, we thought it'd be fun to come from the beach. So we were in our 20s beach gear. Or here, the 50s party. My husband thought it would be brilliant for if he was a milkman and I was that, again, innocent housewife. So that's us. And this is a picture of us in Cancun. You can see our beach glow there. But thanks for joining me and hearing a little bit about me. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Susan.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
All righty. I was talking on mute, but I appreciate it. That was great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Fun.